everyone.
Oh, hello,
Welcome to the
everybody.
Authentic as Fuck podcast. How are you?
I'm fine, freezed a little bit because it's cold here, but I started working and everything is back to routine, more or less.
Okay. So you have a carousel idea you want to talk about?
Yeah, maybe we can talk about that. Um, so let me just open my.
Let's start with how did you get this idea? Did it make sense to you the what I said about the mini aha moments, the 7 day challenge?
Yes,
Is that how
yes,
you get
because
ideas?
um, well, for this, no. But what this do, this brings me awareness of what is happening around me every day, because I noticed few things that I wouldn't notice usually, that it's actually something that had an impact on me. So
Really?
I yeah,
You're
and I
already
like,
pretty good at being aware. So that's surprising that even for someone
yeah,
like you that you'll see you'll be even more aware if you actually try.
yes. For example, I had new umbrella and I wanted to rain for me to use
So
it,
you can use
to have
it.
it. So this was like, this is like, I don't like rain. I don't like anything about rain, but the fact
Mhm.
that there was new umbrella that I can try on to see how it works. I don't know, to have it because it's new and
Mhm.
I'll enjoy it. I want it to rain. So, for example, I noticed that.
And
So I don't
did
have
it
a
remind you?
I
So
mean,
the next
that
step is like, did it remind you of anything? So what's the psychology behind that, or
yeah,
what
it reminded
what's
me
the
that
lesson there?
I don't know what's the lesson, but definitely that kind of novelty is putting something exciting to something that is usually something I don't like. Or now
So
when
maybe
I
like if you don't like running, but you have new pair of sneakers, like oh
yes,
now you want to go for a run or something like that.
yeah. Or like I mentioned to you that I went to a library that is in a shopping mall because it was exciting. But for
Hmm.
that, I needed to like get up early and to drive to that place just to to go to the library, to
I
be
think that's
there.
important. I actually think like I used to think that's stupid. Like like our office, like before, like I didn't care about our office or like I really didn't care about like those superficial things, right?
Hmm.
But those things does matter. Like when you have a nice office, you want to go there and you want to work there, or like yeah, like I remember like my first job, I actually like getting dressed up in the morning and going commuting to work, and I actually enjoy that process, right? Because it's like novel and
Hmm.
I think that's why like it, people. I think it's important that we work in the office with other people rather than just at home by ourselves, like this work from home thing. Because there's something about going into office and like you know interacting with other human beings, going
Yes,
out to lunch, like
exactly. When I was doing my master thesis and when I was going to library every day, I I said to myself like, oh, it would be cool when I'm going to have my office, to have a place to go to work so that I don't work in my apartment but to go somewhere to work. So right now it's fine for me to go to my office to work, But still, when I am going to, I have some another exam that I'm preparing, but I don't go there to work for my exam. It's boring for me to go there, and I was like, okay, I have a separate place. What is the difference between going to a library and going to another office when it's not your like it's not your apartment, it's a different place, but the difference
There's
is,
people there.
yeah. So
Yeah.
just watching people around me is doing something to my brain, so it makes something more engaging, just being around people.
I also think it's not just you watching people. I think it's also people watching you. I actually think it's more about that. Because if you just want to watch people, you could have a TV on and watch. Put a camera outside and just have a TV on. You could just watch them, right? But I actually think it's less about you watching people. I think it's more about being seen.
Probably it's both. I mean, it's not the same when you have a real human being in front of you and when you watch them on TV.
Yeah, because you're not being seen. Well, and one you're being seen, and the other one you're not being seen.
I mean, I already told you that many times. Um, I watch people like through my window, and I'm watching how they are, what they do when they pass by building. Or I don't
But
know.
what if you had a camera out there and you were watching it through a screen?
Eh, no, it's not the same.
Really? What's the difference? Have you even tried? I bet you if you did it, you'd be like, "Oh, this is super interesting."
I mean, many times, when you scroll a TikTok, or it shows you like home screen camera and what this home camera saw.
Hmm.
So I mean, sometimes usually they have something that is interesting, but it's not that much engaging because many
Yeah,
times.
because I think it's like there's a difference between maybe because it's like one is more like a voyeurism, right? Like one is you know you're watching them, but they don't know you're watching them. I don't know that they're being watched, and the other is like those people know that they're being watched.
I
Because I
think
think
it's
people behave differently when they know they're being watched.
definitely, many times um it's same people because it's like neighbors, or there is one like garbage can, and I would watch how somebody is approaching garbage can. Because people are so different how they approach garbage can. So, or today I observed for maybe 15 seconds, it's just a glimpse, but I just like I'm passing by and I'm seeing something. So today a lady was cleaning her car from snow, and I was just watching how she's going to clean. So is it first like the window or the back door, or like what is she cleaning first? So this is what I watched. I don't know why I wanted to say it. So, something, I observed something, but it wouldn't be the same if I would watch it on screen. I don't know what's the difference. Maybe because it's my neighborhood, or I see these
But
people
what
more.
if you were watching the same exact woman, same everything on screen?
I mean, we have some camera on our building that that is watching the outside. I've never even tried to connect that to our TV. It's not. I didn't
You
even
should
try.
try it. You should try and watch, and maybe you'll be like, "Ooh, this is interesting."
Okay.
When you said the story about umbrella, like what came to my mind is um, when I first got my motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
Like I didn't have anywhere to go. There was no place for me to go. So I would like make up places like, oh, let's go to this place and just go there and drink coffee. And like what I during that time, what I noticed is that that's actually what a lot of bikers do. Like I used to go up this place where people drive up there just and there's like a coffee shop. Like it's like an hour drive, and then there's a coffee shop there in the middle of nowhere. And literally, when you go there, it's all bikers, like both either motorcycles or like bicyclists, and they
Mm.
literally ride there just so that they can ride, have coffee, hang out, and then they go home. and another thing that I reminded, like, so I guess that's kind of related to like, there are certain things that we do in life that doesn't need to have a point. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just the pure act of doing it is alone is enough. I'm sure there's a reason why psychologically. And it also reminded me of how, like, remember what I said about when all you have is a hammer, like everything looks like a nail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you see a lot of these life coaches and therapists online, they're trying to attribute everything to trauma. Everything is trauma to them. Everything is trauma. This is trauma. That's trauma. And it's like I actually don't think that's very healthy, right?
Of course.
Like when you have an umbrella, you're like looking for rain, right? Like in you know when when your only tool is you know like a
Yeah,
psychotherapy.
every kind of pain is pathologizing. So today I was thinking, yeah, this is what I was thinking about today. Um, when I watched how Jordan Peterson is explaining these hierarchies between like different areas of life, and then I was thinking about this whole victimhood mentality that is kind of forced um with this um trauma explanation, like everything is traumatizing, everything is triggering. So then how actually people that are in this victimhood mentality, they are um, I imagine this another pyramid of like hierarchy pyramid and the trauma pyramid. So now to be higher in this pyramid, you need to prove how traumatized you are.
Yeah.
And that actually we are using this hierarchy to hide, not to be seen for these others hierarchies where maybe we don't like ourselves or where we are, how satisfied we are in these places in terms of how good we are in our career, or if we are satisfied with how we have connections with our family, with do we have a partner, so do we feel successful or
Wait, so you're
satisfied.
saying the more trauma they have, the lower they feel in the hierarchy?
And no, no, this is about the more they present they're traumatized, they are higher in this hierarchy of like victimhood hierarchy,
Yeah,
and they're using to
I agree.
hide these others hierarchies where we don't know where they are, but
Oh,
they
okay.
don't like
Because they
them.
think that they think that that's gonna lower their status in the victim hierarchy. So
Well,
I
that
actually think there's some. I actually think that one of the reasons why there's this so much. I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but this is my feeling. I feel
okay.
like the reason why there's so many people that made up this like some celebrities came out as like pansexual or um like there's all these different sexualities and genders now that are not
Mhm.
just a clear cut like you know LGBT like gay, lesbian, like there's all this like asexual, and there's like all these other things now, right? That I
Mhm.
haven't even heard of, right? And like there's like, male, female, trans, and then there's also now gender, like non-binary or what. Like there's these things
Yeah.
that are like, I'm like, okay, like what does that even mean, right? Like it's and when you look at them, they just look like a normal human being. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just a label that they put on themselves. And I think one of the reasons why this happens so much, like with teenagers, because most of them are teenagers that are
Mm.
identifying themselves like that. I think is because it raises their status in their social circles. Like, oh, she's non-binary pansexual. Ooh, like boom, now here. So
Mhm.
like how do I know you're just making that shit up just so that you could like you're just a normal straight white girl. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. So these are two, like, so there is a victimhood mentality hierarchy,
Mm-hmm.
and there is weirdness, let's say like that, just for the sake of the argument.
Nobody wants to be just normal anymore.
Yeah. Normal is boring. Normal is
Normal is the lowest in the hierarchy. The
definitely,
more weird you are, the
yeah,
higher you go in the.
weirdness pyramid. So weirdness hierarchy really means that, the more you show how weird you are,
Mm-hmm.
you're representing better.
Mm-hmm.
You, you have more social status, or um but when you mentioned like teenagers and so on, um I read from one psychologist. She said that children are now more satisfied with relationship with their parents, but less satisfied with their life, which was a little bit strange, because when I heard the first part, they're more satisfied with their parents, means like this is a good thing, like they have better relationship with their parents, right? But then less satisfied with life, it kind of showed that maybe, at
Maybe
least my
teenagers are
impression.
supposed to have bad relationship with their parents.
Yeah, because parents are not their friends. Parents are supposed to guide them, not to
Yeah.
cuddle them.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they cuddle them, then they're going to be so unprepared for how reality is going to respond to them, that life is going to be a misery.
I also think that like we need. I feel like humans are so tribal that we need uh, an enemy that we're rebelling against. And for teenagers, most of the time, for teenagers, that's their parents, it's their teacher, it's their like, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like if we don't have any like, and that's why we have football teams, right? That rival against each other, right? Like if you don't have that, we're gonna make shit up. Like I feel like we don't if we don't have that common enemy or common we don't have any problems like that. I think we're gonna make up problems and we're gonna make up enemies and shit like that. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I think um, maybe only recently that I could see like good side of my mother forcing me to be good at things and not to give up because I don't want to do it, because she really helped me build discipline and to strive to through challenges. Even though I didn't like it, I hated it, I didn't know how to do it, but somehow I managed
Mm-hmm.
to have this goal, like, here it is, mom, I hate you, but here it is. So so
Yeah, I actually feel really sad when I see people adults that are like really undisciplined, like they have zero discipline. And it's basically like watching an adult version of a child. Like it's It's kind of sad, like because they never learned that as a child, like growing up, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like maybe you can't teach that when you're an adult. I don't know. It's really sad when I see like like an adult 40-year-old male just sitting at home playing video games and like not doing anything with their life. I'm like, it's just
Yeah.
so sad, you know.
Yeah, because there is something about giving up from life, something like that. And resentment that rise up from that, from not seeing what you can
Hmm.
make, you can
So
do.
let me ask you something, because this is something that people always like. I guess it's also depending on the platform where I say this. Like I can say the same thing on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Threads, and I get completely different reaction from people. And like
Wow.
I feel like Threads is the platform where it's like the most fragile, like the most entitled and weakest people, in my opinion. Because I personally think right now our society is at the place where we're too fragile. We're too we're too focused. Everything is trauma. Everything is um like everything is not our fault. Everything is victim mentality, right? But there are still people on social media going like, "Oh no, it's everything is you're perfect the way you are," like it's not your fault, and look, it's okay to be, like whatever.
Mm.
Like I don't understand that. Like I actually I think we overcorrected. I feel like we're like on the other side of the spectrum that I think we need to dial it back a little bit now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm starting, so only recently I'm developing opinion on this, because um I think I envied people who had that opportunity to choose if they want to do or they don't want to do something. And I had to do something. So I was envious of those people that had that freedom to be bad, and they didn't have that freedom.
Like people like with a lot of like spoiled people that are spoiled, basically the
Yeah,
rich kids. Yeah.
because they could have, I don't know, in terms of like marks in school, they could have bad
Hmm.
marks in many subjects, and that's fine.
Hmm.
I couldn't. Um, but
Also, it's not even just spoiled. It's like in term. You mean like so they don't have to be like rich kids.
yeah, they don't have to be rich kids. They just need to have parents that are kind of accepting their nature, for
Oh,
example.
okay, got it, got it. The cool
Going to,
mom.
yeah,
Like you
yeah.
ever watch Mean Girls?
No, no, I didn't. But
Uh,
when I was when I was younger, I was
mhm.
envious because my aunt was like that. If her kid would come to her
Oh,
and
she's
say
cool
like,
mom.
"Hey, I didn't learn for today's exam. Can I stay at home?" She would say, "No problem. I'll fix
Mm.
that for you." And my mom would
Oh, cool
like
mom.
my mom would first yell at me because I didn't study, and then because I'm telling that her right now, because and then I would need to go. Or if I can be excused from that class, I would regret that, because
Mhm.
she would make sure that I know that this is not how things should work. So I was envious of my aunt, and I openly told my mother that I want my aunt to be my mom and not you because you're too strict. So, but right now and recently, I'm starting to kind of go back a little bit to more that kind of traditional
Yeah,
way.
that's what. that's actually exactly what I was saying about, like, you know, like, I don't know, right? Like, is spanking your child wrong or bad? I don't know, right? We don't know the long term effects of that, right?
Mhm.
But if you really think about it, like, not spanking your child, that's a pretty recent. It's a recent thing, maybe in the last 30 years, 40 years, right? Like, before that, everybody spanked their child,
Yeah.
right? Now, especially in the Western world, now it's like so taboo that if you spank your child or something like that, right? But we don't really know the long term effects of that, right? I feel like right now, if you go on YouTube,
Hmm.
just go on YouTube or go on Google and search millennial teachers, like, because, or like Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and teachers. Like, right now, there's an epidemic of teachers quitting right now because they can't handle these kids. Like, kids are too entitled; they can't control them. Like, like right now, I feel like we're living in this age of, like, these kids that are so coddled and so, um like, because we had a whole generation of parents now who have kids now, who are like, oh no, we have to be friends with our kids, and we have to understand them. We can't, you can't spend that, you can't, like, that that I think we have this whole generation of undisciplined kids that's causing all these teachers to quit. Like, these teachers can't, like, deal with them, and this is a pretty modern thing. Do you know what I mean? So I just, a lot of the things that, yeah, progress is good and all of that, but we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, we, every change that we make, we really have to do it slowly, and that's kind of like where I'm all about progress, but at the same time, I'm not about just making progress without really thinking about it, because,
Yeah.
like, we talked about it before, right? And we just don't understand the long term effects of something.
Um, so I guess that now when you say discipline, it kind of mix with this beating. It, like the only way you can, I mean, if you spanking might be one way to discipline your child, but maybe definitely not the only one, and probably not the necessary one.
It
Uh,
shouldn't be your first line of defense, in my opinion. But
exactly.
I do think that there's, like, you know, I heard somebody talk about, like, the reason why all the kids right now wants communism is because they haven't gone through, or they're like, you know, the generation right now have never faced any kind of hardship or violence or things like that, and people who don't know that are the ones, like, who, like, they're talking about, like, we're talking about all these things in Ukraine and in Israel and all of that shit, like, as if, like, it has to do with, like, our words on social media is causing friction in the world that literally causes
Mhm.
people to die in those countries, right? Like, we should just shut the fuck up and not, like, like, let them deal with their shit and not build any additional tension where it's unnecessary. Do you understand what I mean? Like, these kids
Yeah.
don't understand that their words actually can create more tension and actually can create more people to die. Do you understand what I mean? And it's and I think it's because that it's kind of like, I think it was Jordan Peterson who said the difference between a man and a woman, like, I've experienced this myself. Like, girls are fucking crazy. Like, when girls are drunk, or, like, when they're mad, they literally have no fear. Like, they'll punch a guy, they'll go crazy, and, like, girls feel. And the reason why is because girls, especially in the Western world, they don't have to fear the repercussion of getting hit. They can do whatever they want and nobody's gonna touch them.
Mm.
Do you understand what I mean? Whereas in guys, all guys know we grew up getting into fights. We grew up with getting our asses kicked, and we grew up with that violence over our head all the time. So we know that if I cross the line and I disrespect somebody, then I'm gonna get punched. And that fear is certain amount of fear like that is good because it
Mm-hmm.
actually teaches you to be more respectful, right? So yeah, you can discipline your kids. Like you can say, "Hey, no phone for you. No, you're grounded. You stay home." What if that kid sneaks out? What there? Yeah, it shouldn't be hitting your kid. Shouldn't be the first line of defense. But if they disobey all of the rules, at some point there has to be a repercussion. There has to be some sort of a punishment right there. And I think, like for me, I'm very aware of that. Very aware that there's a line that I cannot cross, and if I cross that line, then I'm gonna get hit, right? And that invisible line is what gives me the ability to show respect, like to a certain point. Do you understand what I mean? But if there's no zero repercussion like that, no matter what you do, you're never going to be touched. You're going to be 100% safe. Then that's like living in a society with. That's like living in a society that has laws but
Mm,
no police or no jail.
yeah. So
I mean, that's what
it
I think, but I'm sure like psychologists will disagree with me. Like, I don't
um
care because I just don't think there's enough data. Like, you can
you know
come to me with all the data, whatever. But I just right now, I just don't think there's enough data, and like, I just don't. And data has become completely irrelevant in debates and arguments these days. I don't know if you noticed that.
data is
Data has become completely irrelevant because for every data, somebody like I was watching this, like I went down this rabbit hole of like plant based diet. Like I don't know if you saw this movie called Game Changer, and it's all about like plant based diet and how healthy it is, and it gives you more energy and blah blah blah. So it
I watch
almost like I saw it a few years ago.
What Eat, something like that. It's a
Hmm?
Netflix. I watched documentary.
No, this is an old one. It's called Game Changer, and it's with like Arnold Schwarzenegger and like they had this entire football team go
Okay.
on vegan like plant-based diet and they actually ended up closest to winning, and there was this like 50 something year old woman who went on a plant-based diet and she ended up winning the Olympics in cycling, and it's like it talked about the benefits of like plant-based diet and how it can actually, you know it's more healthier and things like that. And but then I started like went down this rabbit hole on YouTube, but there's this guy who just debates like about why veganism is better, right? Like, and but this guy is like he's so, like a lot of these vegans, they talk about like animal cruelty and like there it's very like lecturing
Yeah. Yeah.
tone of like, well, do you love your dog? And you're like, oh, like don't you think it's morally right to eat animals and blah, 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 blah. Like they're better than me, right? This whole condescending like lecturing tone is what bothers me. And
Yeah. Okay, finish, please.
on top of that, he just goes on streets and like debates these like meat eaters, and he like like Ben Shapiro, he destroys them with all this data. He's like, oh, but according to this data, blah, 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 according to this, and like in the recent years, what I'm starting to see is like, yeah, like the CDC and all these fucking news company came up with the data about COVID, and they just, you can manipulate data. You can pick the facts you like and you don't like, and you can look at a study and you can create a narrative out of it that fits you without looking at another side. And it's just like as soon as somebody says data, I don't want to even hear it anymore, because like after I watched those videos, I went in and I looked up all these like, okay, like plant-based diet, long-term effects and things like that. And there's all these other studies around how like it brings your cognitive ability and these other things that these guys don't talk about. So for every data that they find, I can always find another data that contradicts that data. And
Mm.
that's why like data doesn't people always say, "Oh, do you have any evidence or data?" Blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit what data you say you have,
Yeah.
because clearly data is not working, because we were lied about COVID vaccines and we were lied about COVID using data.
The thing is, um, you know, where there's a lot of money, then you have propaganda. So you don't know
Yeah.
who is cheering for in that
Yeah,
narrative.
who's doing the research? Yeah.
So so I watched a documentary, "We Are What We Eat," something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a study on 22 twins, but like twins that are, from the
Oh,
same.
okay. I think I heard of it. Yeah. I didn't watch it though.
Yeah, so they've been doing this study. So one twin would eat plant-based diet, and one twin would eat carnivore diet.
Like
So
on
health,
purpose,
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah, healthy
yeah.
carnivore diet for I think 4 weeks or for 8 weeks. They've been getting food like each meal they would get, and they need to stick to it. So, and after that, the same amount of time they needed to continue the study, but preparing food on their own, the same type of food. So, vegan, plant based diet, or carnivore. So, I wanted to see what would be the difference, because they would track their measurements, like their fat, like visceral fat, and their performance. Like they would also exercise during that time, and also, which was so interesting, sexual arousal.
Oh
So
yeah,
if
that's what
going
they did in Game Changer too. Yeah,
and
like they measure like how aroused they are overnight or something like that.
yeah,
Like when they go
yeah.
to bed. Yeah.
So how deep is their sleep, and also cognitive functions. So, what I didn't like about that documentary is that I needed to wait so long. So I started to skip things, because in the meanwhile you have, look how things on farm look like, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
picture, like video of large farms, and then methane that cows are like
Yeah. Like the
evaporating.
environmental. Yeah.
Yeah, and then how much water it takes them to make cheese or something like that, or not to make cheese, but to to water them, like how much cows need water,
Oh,
and
okay.
then
Yeah.
how much it needs water for, I don't know, for yeah, for plant-based cheese, or for like regular cheese, how much.
Obviously, it's less for plants because cows eat plants. So-
So so then they would, I mean, it looks to me that it makes sense that like meat is taking much more energy to
yeah. And like
make.
even just from like the humane, like how factory farming is done, right? Like it's just like it's very abusive to the animals, right? Like
Yeah,
so.
so everything there is truth, but the point
Mhm.
is this study, and this is what irritated me. Like you could have the same point if you just showed us the study, and that's it, and from their
That's
research.
exactly how I feel. That that's exactly how I felt like when something sounds too good to be true,
Mm,
I almost start not believing them.
yeah.
And that's kind of how this vegan was. He was every argument he's like, no, there's and like some people would even ask me like is there any argument against that, right? Is there something that like that it's being a vegan is not better? And then
Mm,
like he would say no. Like so if you say you're flawless and you're perfect and I'm immoral and I'm the bad guy because I eat meat, like do you think I'm gonna listen to you? Like
exactly.
and even if it is 100% right, I don't think that's the right way to change somebody's mind by shaming them and like
Exactly. So Um, good thing, one good thing that I like about that, because it was obvious that plant-based diet made like better short-term effects. So this doesn't mean that they make a long-term effect, just short-term
Mhm.
effects that are better. So two guys were doing like muscle training, so their goal was to gain muscle mass. And so of course carnivore guy had more muscle mass than his brother, but he increased a little bit of muscle mass. So you can do it, but it's slower. It takes you more time, more energy, and they're saying you need to eat more. So this means that if I'm going to eat, I need to feel full and then to eat a little bit more to maintain the same calorie as I'm going to eat on carnivore diet, for example. So so this was
Or the
honest.
same amount of protein, I guess, not
Yes,
calorie. Because,
amount
yeah.
of calories or protein, depending from like what do you track. So so I guess that that narrative is what kinds of shade everything, puts shade on everything.
I tend to trust things more when things are very even, like they show pros and cons and all of that. Whenever it's too lopsided,
Mm,
like this whole thing that's going on in Israel, right? Like the reason why the narrative is changing is because like what happened in Israel is already horrible. Like whatever in October 7th, like it's already terrible the way it is. Like the amount of innocent people that died, that they don't have to make up shit to make it sound worse. Do you know what I mean? But that's what they did, right? And so when people start doing that, and same thing, like when you see the news and things like that, when I see things that are like something could be bad already, but when they try to like hide information and lie to make it seem worse,
mm,
like it's actually going to backfire. And I feel like that's kind of what's happening right now in the world, is that like these media companies and these politicians trying to
but
hide stuff and lying is actually backfiring on them.
yeah, I see why it backfires to you,
Mhm.
but they're not like insane, because when they're doing that, because they are not addressing to um, they're addressing to people that are going to believe to how things appear to look like. So
Yeah, but
probably
that number is shrinking though. And
if
that's why I think the whole narrative in the like I remember the first few days everybody was like pro Israel, and now the narrative is changing, right? And it's not even just like you know like it's at a massive scale now. And I think
mm,
it's like they kind of shot themselves, like all this media company kind of shot themselves in the foot by doing that.
I mean, if this is truth, then this is good, because um, I mean, when I see how commercials look like, you cannot just say what you have and offer what you can offer. It's like, hello, have you ever think about this, and la 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 la. So it needs to be dramatic, it needs to kind of invade you, so
That
that you
it
can.
works in marketing. You know why? The
I
reason why it
see.
works in marketing is because it doesn't work in like a political sphere, or it doesn't work in like social changes, because at the end of the day you might have like 20% of people still believe the lie, but majority of the people, like 60 to 80% of the people, are still not gonna. If you do that, 60 to 80% of people are not dumb enough, brainwashed zombies. They are gonna start to see the truth, right? And that's kind of that's how the narrative is switching right now. But if
But
you're in marketing, right,
okay.
it's okay. I can still make billions of dollars off of 20% of the people. And that's kind of what's happening, right? When you see those, like infomercials, and when you see like you know, these like self-help fake gurus and things like that, the reason why they're successful is because, yeah, I can even just get 1% of the people. That's good enough for me. That can still make a lot of money from there. That's why
Mhm.
it works in commercial sense. It works in business, but it doesn't work in like mainstream, like social change and things like that. In my opinion, because at the end of the day, 99% of people still will never go to a Tony Robbins seminar. But he only needs 1% of the people. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like 1% of the people is still 70 million people. Do you know what I
I
mean?
think that Tony Robbins became a metaphor for fake gurus, for fake
I mean, like
coaches.
he's not fake guru, but I'm just saying the type of person that would go into a credit card debt to go to a Tony Robbins seminar are probably the same type of person that are easy to influence with a lie or something like that,
Yeah.
or the same type of person that would probably buy that thing, buy now, and like all those infomercials and stuff. Like there are certain type of people that that those commercials are targeting, and they don't care if 90% of the people don't buy. Because there's always that, like, the same type of people that sends out that email scam was like, oh, I'm the prince of Saudi Arabia, and if you send me this much money in PayPal, you can get $50 million or whatever it is, right? Like it's the same people, right? Because there's a certain amount of, I feel like most people are skeptical to a certain degree, but there are a certain amount of people that are just not skeptical at all.
I guess
Like flat
when
earthers. I mean, there's over 1 million people who believe the earth is flat, right? So and like I said, they're not even like dumb people. They're usually actually above average intelligence.
so I guess it's different when you need to pay for something or not. If um if you imagine them having to pay a
Yeah,
fourth
that probably
course,
makes difference. Yeah,
if they believe that the earth is flat, then they need to be part of a
like
community.
the number of people that support the Ukraine war, right? Like, how many of them would actually support the Ukraine war if they had to pay for it
Hmm.
out of their pocket, right?
So we are skeptical when we need to pay for something.
Hmm. What they don't know is that we're already paying. Like, see, I mean, U.S. is already paying for it with our tax dollars, so we're already paying for it. We just don't know it.
Yeah. I mean, even if you do, you can't do anything about it. So it's better
Yeah.
just to ignore it. So we end up here and we started from these hierarchies.
No, we
And
started from the umbrella.
yeah, yeah.
But anyway,
Um,
what's your myth truth sandwich?
so my mid truth sandwich is um, so for many things, there is this kind of binary thinking. It's this or that. And so my idea was how to, I think what people need to develop is to sit with unknown and to search for answers. Because I see in many cases in my environment where the answer is it's this.
It's either
I'm right.
vegan or carnivore diet.
Exactly like that. So, so what actually is what I think we need to develop is that to sit with that fact, to accept the unknown, that there are bad things about plant based diet, and there are bad things about carnivore diet and good things as well. So to do that for everything that
Do you think
is
most people are like that though? Do you think most people are binary?
um
I know I am. I'm very black or white. I'm all or nothing. And I know that about my personality. But do you think
okay.
most people are like that?
um I don't think it's like people, but for many of us, for some things are black or white. So we tend to do this. This is in our nature because this give us something to hold on. So being aware of that and building that capacity to, okay, I know this is important and I know I don't want to lose this, but let me just try to listen to the other side. This is going to give us some new.
Okay, okay. So you're talking about not binary, but you're talking about bias.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, black or white, bias thinking, binary thinking.
Because I'm very binary thinking, meaning like um, you know, you have to post every day, then you have to post every day. Like there's you know what I mean? Like whatever it is, I'm like I either go all in or I don't do it at all. Do you know what I mean? Like the fact that I have a black and white bread,
Done.
and I'm
So
not saying that I'm right. I'm 100% wrong in that, but that's my personality.
the thing is, you, I mean, you are opinionated person. So you are not like just thinking something. You're thinking something. So this is what I think. So, but what also I think about you is that when you try one thing, like post every day, but at one point this doesn't give you results that that you want, or it gave you results that you want. So now you use another information and then you change something about it. So maybe this is, maybe I should read you carousel and then to see where this is going. Okay.
Hmm.
So do you have a
I'm
loose?
both, by the way. I'm both binary
Okay.
and I'm also biased. So I'm I have both of them are, but I'm just trying to. I guess the question that I was trying to ask you is that because I think I'm extreme. I don't think most people are like me. I think most people are much more open minded than me, and I think most people are much more like in the spectrum than me. Is what I'm trying to say. So,
Okay.
but I don't know. Let's see. Let's hear the carousel. Let's see if that's just for people like me or it's for the general public.
Okay. So the hook is, do you have quote a loser mentality? So
Okay.
you probably heard losers quit, winners persist. Imagine you told a joke and nobody laughed. Loser mentality reaction. I'm stupid, I can't even say a joke. Or they're stupid, they don't get a joke. In loser mentality, everything is black or white. Winners are curious. What happened? Was it me? Was it a joke? Was it people? How can I improve? No matter if you persist or not, losers jump to conclusions, winners don't. Makes sense?
Hmm. Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense.
The moment when Sun was speechless.
I think you nailed it. It's like I guess like maybe is it? I guess yeah, it is loser or winner um, mentality. Yeah, it's not that because both extremes are bad. I guess, and it has something to do with bias, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think because if you're, but it's I don't know if it's a black and white thing. Like I don't know if it's like you know all or nothing mentality. I think it's more of a bias thing. But I like maybe they are related. I don't know.
Um, so when I say black or white, in I translate that as good or bad. So not all or nothing. But maybe biased is also a good way to explain it. So
I
good
guess
or
they're
bad.
both. The mentality is. I guess it's a good way to like. Let's think about it a little bit more. Like how would you put that into a myth truth sandwich?
Uh, if you can open, because I posted that on. Let me share here the link. It's in Figma file that we share. The last one.
Do you have a loser mentality? Probably heard losers quit, winners persist. Imagine you told a joke and nobody laughed. Loser mentality reaction. I'm stupid. I can't even take a joke. Or they are stupid. They don't get it. Loser mentality. Everything is black or white. Winners are curious. What happened? Was it me? Was it the joke? Was it people? Can I improve? Conclusions. Winners don't. Makes sense. I mean, I think it's good, but I feel like you're like I think if you put this out there, most people will get what you're trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was working on this carousel, like it doesn't feel very satisfying. It doesn't have that like
Ending.
like and I
Oh.
think the reason why is because you're dealing with a lot of different concepts here. You're dealing with quitting versus persisting. You're also dealing with black and white. You're also dealing with um jumping to conclusion and not jumping to conclusion. So you're actually there's multiple things going on here. I would love to find like one thing that we can anchor to,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay,
if
I
we
see.
wanted to, what is that?
I
Right?
see. I
You know what I
see.
mean? Is it the black and white, or is it that they one doesn't give up, or was it that one jumps to conclusion and it doesn't? Right? Those are three different things, right? I mean, they can overlap, but I still don't understand exactly which it is that, and maybe that's why it's not as satisfying. I feel like we haven't reached a conclusion yet. It's,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So one is give up or don't give up. So I'm starting with this
And
losers
there's
quit.
also another one that you kind of hint at, but you didn't actually say it, which is one is things are out of my control, and the other one is everything is within my control. Like for example,
Mm.
If you say, "Oh, I'm just not funny," that means I'm saying, I'm not. It's not out of my control, right? Or if says, "Oh, these people just don't get it," that means it's out of my control. Like, but they're both out of my control, right? Whereas in like, if I can say, "Oh, maybe I can change the joke," and blah blah blah, then that means I'm taking. So it's like taking responsibility versus,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We talked about locus of control. This is what you are
yeah.
addressing. Mm-hmm.
First of all, because I think all of those things can be true. Do you
Mm-hmm.
understand what I mean? So how we pick one, or how we know where to hone in on, is, I keep saying this, and I almost feel like I don't know why, because I think everyone understands it, but maybe they're dismissive of it. Because today, this morning, in Wednesday's workshop, the same thing happened with multiple people. Like, we're so focused on the content, we're so focused on the idea, the message, that we don't pay attention to who this message is for.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to really shift that perspective to be like, who is this message for? And like, for example, if that message was for me, I would just double down on the black and white concept, right? Or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Because that's my personality.
Okay, so
Do you understand what I mean? But if you were to, like, speak to somebody else, maybe the lesson might be different. Like, depending on who you speak to, the lesson and the direction of the carousel is going to change. Even if the idea is the same, the way you're going to say it is going to change. Do you understand what I mean?
yeah.
And that's why I always say, start with, who is this for, and what's the one thing they need to know.
Um. So I guess it is for when we take this place like I'm stupid or they're stupid. Um. So it is kind of it's um helpless situation because you cannot do anything about it. So I'm thinking now about few person that are not.
Let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
What about the people who say, I'm stupid,
Hmm.
but I can change, I can get better?
Mm, what about that?
So it's not just because it's not really about, oh, I'm stupid or they're stupid. It's more about,
It's about what can
do I
I.
have the control over or not.
Yeah, do I have the agency to do something about it if it bothers me? So when I think about.
You know what? If that
Mhm,
message was for me, I would probably start with, like, uh, like, jumping to conclusion, because like I tend to jump to conclusion.
mhm.
Do you know what I mean? So this is why it's so important, like, who you're speaking to. So let me ask you this. Let's go back a little bit. Where did you get this idea? How did? Why did you feel compelled to write this carousel?
I was watching something on YouTube. I don't know if it was Peterson or something like. I think it was Peterson, and I was. This got me thinking about how people are polarizing things, and it's they don't give option, they don't give opportunity to something different. And then another thing that I was thinking about, it's not so connected, but it is a little bit. I was thinking about boundaries, of course, and I saw one therapist advising how to put boundaries, how to say no. So she was saying, so if you are in some gathering and your family is asking you questions like, hey, are you going to get married, or when you're going to have kids? So if you don't feel comfortable, just say, I don't want to speak about this topic. Please stop asking me these questions. And you need to address like what repercussions are going to be if they continue. So if you continue asking me this, I'm going to I'll go out of the room. So this is the repercussion. And this didn't sit with me well, because this kind of puts some wall, like this is me and I'm putting a wall and I'm not letting anything from this side to go in. So I was thinking about healthy boundaries, and that healthy boundaries actually needs to include also another person, because maybe they care about you, maybe they're worried about you, maybe they're curious about your life, and maybe they have some, like they want to mock you. So this is one of maybe five options. You don't know which one is that. So you need something to be on repeat, and to try to work things out. If this doesn't work, then it's like, I don't know, like fourth level of defenses. Stop doing this. I will go out if you continue.
That's like a
So
ultimatum, right? Like those are the people that kind of give ultimatums, right?
yeah,
And ultimatums are a sure way to ruin relationships.
exactly. So exactly, you need to you need to know when are you going to take that tool.
So who do you think needs to hear this message? Because like I said, I think that idea is really good, what you have, but
Hmm.
there's many directions it can go, right? And that's what I think, the reason why myth truth sandwich is so powerful is because if you really look at all of my carousels, I'm not saying anything new. The only difference between my carousels and what everyone else is saying is that I start from the right myth.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Because the truth and the lesson and everything is the same as what everyone else is saying. But it's actually what I'm doing is I'm picking the right myth is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm able to pick the right myth is because I start from the audience.
Hmm.
And I don't start from all audience. I start from a specific person. It's like this person right now don't understand this concept of, and this concept could be like, hey, you can take ownership and you're not out of control. Like it's not out of your control, right? Or whatever it is. The reason why this person doesn't understand it is because they're a black and white thinker. They're all or nothing. Or maybe it's because they have a loser mentality, or maybe it's because they're like the ultimatum thing, right? They're like,
Hmm.
whatever it is, there's a reason why they're like that. So I need to, and so I need to figure out like the anchoring thing, right? Remember when we talked about the cats and dogs?
Hmm.
um the anchoring word there is train, right? The smarter you are, the easier it is to train you, because you
Yeah.
need to have, because understanding incentives and reward system, you you need some certain level of intelligence to understand that, right? And the more intelligent you are, the more sophisticated I can be with the incentive and reward system, right?
Yeah.
And that's why the whole word is training smart, right? The easier train, the smarter it is. But then if I start with that, the carousel doesn't work. If I say, oh, You know how most people think cats are smarter because you can't train cats. People are gonna be like, "What the fuck is that? What does training have anything to do with being smart?" That's what they're gonna say. Or what does training have anything to do with cats? Or like I don't. Or I'm not starting from the myth. What I'm doing is I'm giving it away. I'm like, oh, like it's too far from. They're gonna be like, what does training have anything to do with smart, right? So what I need to do is I need to start from where they are. And so now I need to go to the mind of the person who thinks cats are smarter than dogs. Why do they think cats are smarter than dogs? Because cats are more independent and they don't obey your commands. And that's why they think cats are smart, right? So then
Mm-hmm.
now I need to start from there. You know how most people think cats are smarter because their cats are more independent and they don't obey your commands. Now you agree with me, right? Like now that I said that. And because they don't obey your commands, it's harder to train them, right? And then now I can link it to training. Now I can anchor. But I have to start from their mindset.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how you put that in, nail that like smooth transition to
Yeah.
the.
But at the end of the day, the lesson is always the same. It's the myth is where we need to really focus on. And in order to find the right myth, I think we need to go into the mind of that person. So,
Mm-hmm.
but right now, it's kind of
Yeah,
hard because I don't know who that person is.
yeah. Mm.
So is that person me? Or maybe it's that psychotherapist, maybe the boundary person, right? It's like, oh, hey, we need to create healthy boundaries, right?
um
Like, here's the thing. I think if you create a too strict of a boundary,
mhm.
and you okay?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay.
yeah, fine, really.
Okay. I just wanted to just double check. So if we create too strict of a boundary, almost like an ultimatum, hey, if you don't stop talking about this, I'm never gonna talk to you again.
Hmm.
Like, let's
This
say
is
too strict of a, yeah,
okay.
like an
One str-
ultimatum like that, right? You're actually giving up control, right? You're saying that, to a certain degree, you're giving up control.
mm, really? Because the point is to. I don't think they gave up control. I think they actually gain control because they are saying what is going to happen.
I know, but that's the myth. True, that's the myth, right? That when we do this, when we set clear boundaries and things like that, we think that we're in control. But
Oh,
the
okay.
truth is, you're actually giving up control because you're saying that I don't know how to make this relationship work. That the only thing I can do is just break this relationship altogether.
Okay.
Do you understand what I mean? But if you
Okay.
were really in control, you'll figure out a way to make this relationship work. Do you understand what I mean? Like, what if that person was your mom? Like, are you really gonna break up a relationship with your mom?
Yeah. So what I had on my mind is, so if we think about boundaries, so if you have on one spectrum a person that have so loose boundaries and they so people don't respect them, and they're saying, yeah, we'll see, okay, we'll meet when it's suitable for you, so everything is so lacks in boundaries, lacking boundaries. So then on the other spectrum they see how this is, the focus is on other person, then it's not on them, on another person. They are not satisfied with that, and they want to change something about it. So the only way they can change it, they go to another extreme, and now they're saying everything, like, yeah, I'm going to say to you everything what I think, because this is the only way. They don't know the subtle differences between one or the other. They just know what is, if I was quiet, now I'm going to speak whatever I have on my mind. But again, this is like black or white, or like one dimension or the other. So I see in many cases this, and I think people are taking advices like this, that this is what they should do. If they were quiet, they now need to speak. But I'm saying that this is also the same thing,
If you were
because
to take a guess
yeah.
in your world, right? And you, with, let's say you in your audience of people, the people that
Mhm.
you're speaking to, you think more people are over here, meaning I need to set very clear boundaries, or do you think they're here where, oh, I'm so loose in my boundaries? Like, where do you think they are?
I think that they are loose in their boundaries, so they are more on that agreeable spectrum,
Hmm.
and they try to work on that, and this is how they work on that.
Okay, so they think that the right. So okay, that's what you said is perfect. Okay, so and this is exactly what myth truth is all about. Myth truth sandwich is all about
Mhm.
is that people overcorrect.
Yeah,
Like because they're here, they overcorrect, and
yeah,
now this has become the myth. Now we need to bring them back to the real truth. Do you understand what I mean? And that's what myth truth. Like we got to a point where everybody's like, no, we have to niche down, niche down, niche down. I'm like, wait a minute. Niche
Mhm.
down doesn't mean this. We need to, you know what I mean? Or somebody says, oh, we need to follow our passion, follow our passion, follow our passion. But then, wait a minute. Let's bring it back a little bit. And that's
Yeah,
what myth truth is all about, right? So your
yeah.
audience, it sounds like you're talking to a person who's like has no boundaries by nature. They're just kind of
Mhm.
like they're a doormat. They just let people push them around everywhere, right? And they keep hearing from these therapists and life coaches that are like, you need healthy boundaries. You need to, be clear in your boundaries. And they think
Yeah.
that, oh, I need to be more like this, right? So your real myth is this, like, hey, we think that we need to set, healthy boundary means clear boundaries, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then now we can give a contradicting example. So
Mhm.
give me a contradicting example of why making the clear boundary of giving that ultimatum is bad.
Imagine your aunt asking you, um,
When are you gonna get married?
"Are you going to get married?"
Yeah.
And you shut down your aunt
Hmm.
because it's not her job to ask you these questions. It's not her thing.
Hmm.
But you actually are shutting down that relationship, and also you are shutting down the fact that this person actually cares about you and maybe is worried, and they don't get that, like, right now this time is not the same as their time, and like she's just worrying from her perspective, and it's hard for her to understand new generations, which is fine
Hmm.
because she's much older than you. So in this manner, this is like overcorrecting, means like setting boundaries, like you should not speak about that, don't
Hmm.
ask me these questions.
And you're kind of what are you doing? You're hurting your relationship with that person.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
so? What's the real truth? What should you do instead?
yeah. Instead of that, um first of all, so you should address the context and that person.
Hmm.
So I get that you are worried about me, or I get that you care about that, but like right now I don't feel comfortable to talk around so many people here. on family dinner about this, for example.
Hmm.
Talk alone, or I'll call you. We can talk, for example. So, or I mean, you don't have to talk. It's not about like that you need to talk, but just, you don't need to like set so strong boundary about that. So maybe somebody cares about you.
I guess what's the other? Maybe that's not a good example in terms of like somebody asking you when you're gonna get married, because like even if that person keeps asking and you don't draw any boundary, it doesn't actually hurt me at the end of the day. It's just annoying, but you know what I mean. It's different
Yeah.
if it actually affects my life, right? Like like what would be a example of you having no boundary?
um Example of having no boundary. So it might be that, if a person calls you today to have to meet up for in an hour, and you are, you know washing the dishes or washing something, and you're instantly turning off your TV and jumping to go to see that person, for example, even though you don't want to see that person, but you know you should do it because it's your friend, and you know that they forget to call you, so you're kind of
And you
understand.
know somebody like that?
Yeah.
And now, do you know somebody who's like that, but who's overcorrecting?
mm, I have in my mind one person that, she's naturally very agreeable, and agreeable, nurturing, so has all that like caring features. So many times people exploited that part of her. So after that, she started, if there if there are two opinions and she disagree with some opinion, she would instantly kind of get a little bit, not offended, but she need to say that I disagree with that because blah blah blah. So, but you have that kind of vibe of, like something
Hmm.
defensive vibe, or some attacking small vibe. You know, if
You know what I think I'm realizing now through this conversation
yeah.
is, I think for me, every time I write a carousel or every time I give advice or anything like that, a myth truth sandwich advice, the audience is always me. It's either the audience is always me
Hmm.
or the younger version of me. Because I think it's hard for me to give advice to somebody on something that I haven't personally experienced.
Yeah, I have that impression too when I think about what what I find myself, being interested in to think about. It's usually people that are, agreeable and, neurotic. So, and that have that locus of control, internal locus of control.
So what I would do is I would think about, so when were you in your life? I think this is why I think it's helpful to start from the personal story, because you
Mm-hmm.
know how I said, um, like I thought I was stupid,
Mm-hmm.
and then I overcorrected and I became arrogant, and then I had to dial back, and that's why a lot of the things I talk about is like dropping ego and things like
Yeah.
that, right? So, like,
When I think about that, um, definitely I noticed that many times I don't want to like interfere if somebody is saying something that is important to them, even though it's an occasion where it's not about. Um, it's totally different, like occasion, not for like hard, important topics. Or in the beginning of my practice, and I was very loose. I was very kind of open to reschedule sessions, or if somebody like texts me, hey, can we just postpone this, or no problem, no worries. So I would have that kind of loose, like, yeah, I would, my feeling was that with this somebody would have this nice, like human contact. It's not a robotic experience, it's like a caring experience. And also my therapist at that time was like that, and I really appreciate it because I could sense that she cares for me. So but as year passed by, some people would use that a lot, and some people would respect that. So it would be on the other person to control what will happen. So I searched for
so you
some
went the
stuff.
other way. So you were actually you tried to be more accommodating and more, you know.
Yeah, I was more accommodating, true. And if I don't know if the time is over of the session and we are in the middle of something, I would go overtime. And so even though my supervisor was confronting me that I shouldn't do that, that this is not something that is good to do, but part of me still, or I couldn't finish, or I was like, this is not a problem for me to go overtime a little bit. So this is one.
But you did that because you thought that was helping
Yes,
the
yes,
client.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So but in terms of like rescheduling, and I made then another agreement, like the how much they can, like how much time before session they can reschedule or cancel their session. So then for a few people this was like too strict, and this is the feedback that I got, because they've sensed like this is like too, like not empathetic.
So that's you overcorrecting, you think? Like you became too
I
strict.
I don't think it's overcorrecting, but this is feedback from two people that I got. So this got me thinking, like maybe if this is strict, like maybe I should have some, because I wanted to have clear boundary, not for those people who respect it, but for those who don't. Because for those who respect it, I can just say, don't worry. But for those who don't respect it, I can stick to some rule that is there before we start. So, but even though the rule was there and they agreed on that, they didn't like it. So they, you know, they they just shared it,
Why do you think you did that?
because I wanted to make things more clear and to put some structure. I needed to do it.
Are you often like that?
Like what?
Like, so
it started to bother me, if, for example, I need to go to the office and to to have my schedule for that day, or I go in advance because I need to turn on heating for one day in advance. So I already schedule time for that, and I
Hmm.
need to go there, and I go there, and the person wants to reschedule or cancel it. So this,
I know, but you didn't have to set that rule for the ones that weren't having that problem.
but you don't know in advance who is going to behave what way, you know. So rules are set before you start your first session. Or with some clients, before, when I was here, if this thing would repeat, then I would say, hey, I see we reschedule a lot of times, so is it fine to have this rule? So if this happens, this is the consequence. So this is fine, but still it was kind of,
That's like a. Is that a lesson that you learned? Like what's the lesson that you learned there?
at that time I learned that I need to say things in advance. It's much more clear. Maybe I share that because I'm friendly, so people feel mm, nice around me. So I think for some people it maybe gives them impression like we are um like, it is fine, I will understand everything, I will also understand that they just,
But you also said that a couple of your clients didn't like that.
no, this is what it was. So
Hmm.
then when I set some boundaries that were more structured.
No, no, that's
Well,
what I mean. So when you did that, a couple of your clients didn't like that. So you think
yeah.
what's the lesson you learned there?
Oh, I've learned that maybe I need to set a boundaries. So I've shortened period for online sessions. So it's different now for online and for live sessions. And so I'm kind of more flexible for people that are scheduling online. This is one thing. And the other thing is, I didn't set in stone um, um, rule, but I just said these rules are just here for the sake of being mindful about each of our time, and I will do the same. So I will respect your time the same way. So this is the part that I included, that I will do the same, which also means if I want to reschedule, I need to um, address that in a certain amount of time before our session, or I will do something to make this up to a person. So it wasn't like a defined rule beside this like hours before. It was more like a flexible, and I also said that I will do the same. It's not like just you are obliged to do this. It's like, yeah, this is what is required because I require for you to respect each of our time, and I'll do the same. I don't know.
Maybe you can. Was there? Is there a different? Um, is there a different scenario or something else like where that also applies to? Like not just with scheduling with clients, but something else.
Mhm.
Because like here's the thing about me, because I'm very black and white.
Okay.
I had when I had one client who kept paying late,
Mhm.
I was like, no, we're gonna set a company wide rule where if you don't pay by this date, we're gonna charge you this much fee. Blah, blah, blah. But then it pissed off all my other clients who was paying on time. Do you understand? I mean, who didn't like? Maybe they
Yeah.
were not paying on time exactly, but they were paying in a pretty reasonable amount of time or something like that, right? So the black and white mentality for me is that I don't like doing things case by case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I want to set a rule for everyone. Right? That's the right. Like if it's this price, it's this price for everyone. If it's this price, it's this price for everyone. But something like that.
Do you do that still?
See that the if it was up to me, I probably would. But now Gigi controls it, so I don't have to. Like, and Gigi's completely okay with doing. She's okay with you know treating a case by case scenario. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
But it feels similar to all of these things. Feels very similar to like you know creating very strict boundaries or like
hmm
setting a rule like a for everything, right? Without exceptions, right? Like this all
yeah.
feels kind of similar, and I think there's some sort of a lesson in there. I guess what I'm trying to say is um, maybe for me, these myth truth sandwiches are the reason why it comes a lot easier for me is because my black and white personality, like my
Mhm.
all or nothing personality, my life has been very extreme. Like my life is very like roller coaster like that, right?
Yeah.
So the lessons that I learn are very clear. To me, it's very clear because I've been burned on both sides of the aisle, right? But maybe for you, your your
Mm,
lessons aren't so clear because like you don't let it get that extreme. Maybe. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean?
I only got two feedbacks, so it's not.
Hmm.
And I only learned lesson from the. I learned my lesson from the first one, but I still didn't change things when I got the second feedback. Even though that feedback, don't think it's. I don't think it was about me, but even though I didn't learn a lesson there from the second feedback, but I wanted to change something about it. So I didn't let that happen like three or four or five times. I was just like, okay, let me think about this. What can I do? So
I mean, it sounds like to me the lesson is something like, but yeah, I guess it's going to be harder for you to find those lessons, but you still have to find them. You you have to find like why was I thinking this way? That's the myth, and then what's the truth? And it's maybe it's something like you know, like I can.
my impression was that the first part of me was that like psychotherapy already is not normal experience. So it's not normal to sit in front of person you don't know and to open up about things that are the most difficult for you or intimate or vulnerable. So this is unnatural thing. So you kind of, it feels right when another person shows you some signs of like human contact, makes that as much natural as it is possible. So for the purpose that you have,
Like you treating them like a friend basically.
I'm treating them like a person I care about. So um so I care about when they come to my office. I care about how they feel in that place. So and I think that I was skeptical when I went to therapy because I didn't trust person in front of me. So when I noticed these signs of that like they care, or a few times when I had like some traffic issues, I couldn't come, they were like understanding.
Strict. Oh, okay.
They were understanding, so this gave me even more, or if I a few times I had something on my mind and I wanted to ask for what they think about that, so I texted my therapist, and she replied like a long answer of like, ooh, this is nice. So she really sit there, and she could say like, we can discuss this on next session, but she actually sit there and answered. So this was these were things that I needed to feel welcomed, you know, and for me to feel more comfortable to share things. So that's why um, that flexibility is what gave me signs of being welcome and that somebody cares.
Hmm.
That's why I did that, because and it feels good when somebody feels good around you, you know. So but
And
then
then
at
you
some
think
point
that,
it
yeah,
started to hurt me.
but did it really hurt you?
Yeah, it started to irritate me. For some people, I need to clear that. So some people would then um, cancel sessions, or they cannot wrap it up. So if we all go overtime, that it means that we will go overtime every time. And then so they would use these um, these these things. I don't know how to explain that better. So that's why I was like, okay, I need to set more clear boundaries. And I talked to colleagues that are setting more clear boundaries. So I was like, okay, it will be for everyone. So right now, these are my rules, and I would send them before our first session. And this is how I entered like this more strict rule. And for majority of people, this works. So it's like
Well,
minority.
for majority of the people, it worked even before you set the rules.
True. Yeah, that's true.
So it sounds like that's what I mean. Like to me, it sounds like you took a specific case scenario and you applied it to everyone.
Yeah.
Because this happened to me too, where like when I feel like
You know when I don't know if this is like the exact thing that we can like apply to this, but for example, there were some things I don't remember when my mom would ask me, and I'd be like, "Stop asking me these questions." And instead of her accepting, like, "Okay, I want to ask you this question," she's like, "I will stop talking at all. I will be quiet.
yeah, it's
So
like all or nothing. Yeah.
I will not ask you anything." So this is another point, but so it looks like that. From one thing you go to everything. Yeah.
But
So
see, that's every myth truth carousel.
yeah.
The whole point of myth truth carousel is that the world is not black and white. Like there are cases when you have to be like this, and there's cases when you have to be like this. The truth is somewhere in between. And I think like when you're telling me that story, that actually, why don't you start by doing that? Why don't you start by see? This is why you need to share stories. I think what you should do is you should start by sharing that personal story first. That's step one. Before you jump to myth truth sandwiches, let's start with the personal stories. And let's say, hey, I used to I really appreciated this therapist who was like that, so I wanted to be flexible and kind, and so I
Mm-hmm.
didn't draw any boundaries, and I did this, and but then I had this one client or two clients who would take advantage of that, right? And that started to irritate me, and I was, because when you tell that story, I can find it completely relatable. So if I have 10 clients and two clients are like, difficult clients, even though the other eight clients are fine, from the person that's being, like, from my point of view, it seems like like nothing is working. It seems like I'm always busy, and it's like, oh my gosh, like this is like it. The problem seems bigger than it is. Do you understand what I mean? So what
Mm-hmm.
ends up happening is like, oh, this isn't working. I need to be strict with all my clients, and I need to set late fees, and I need to do this, and I need to, So, but the reality is, no, I just needed to do that with those two clients. I didn't have to. I didn't have to have like a, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think if you just tell the story like the way it happened, and then the lesson you learned is what, that it's not black and white, maybe that that or what is the lesson that you learned?
I should have rules, but rules should not be set in stone. So,
Or maybe it's something like, you should have rules for yourself, but you should only enforce it when somebody crosses the line. You shouldn't enforce the rules before somebody crosses the line, or something like that.
mhm,
I don't know what it is, but maybe you should share this story in a small group, and you should talk about it. You should recall this moment, 5-second moment, and you should
mhm.
f- get to the bottom of it, and exactly what is the lesson that you took away from there. And then, um because I think the mistake you're making is actually a mistake that a lot of freelancers make, not just therapists, but a lot of freelancers also make this mistake. You know, because like a freelancer might do this, like just because this one client keeps asking for many changes, like
Mhm.
you're like, no, like no more changes, like, and they become really strict, right? They overcorrect, and then they're actually hurting a relationship with other people because of that. Do you understand what I mean? Maybe the reason why people came to them in the first place is because you're very flexible, right? And maybe another way to fix that is, instead of, you know being strict like that, maybe it's like, the a lot of freelancers do this, right? They're like, no more changes. But instead of do that, you can be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can go ahead and make that change, but this extra round is going to be how much, right? And then nine
Mhm.
out of 10 times the client will be like, oh yeah, that's fine, just bill me, just invoice me for it. But then we jump to this conclusion of this like worst case scenario place where you're like, no.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, subtle. I mean, when somebody asks you that openly and you can say, yeah, it's how much, it's kind of an open discussion. But for many things, they are subtle. Like, um, in terms of canceling or rescheduling or going a little bit over time and a little bit more. And so if you think about that, then you have so many small pockets
So,
where
okay, so what did you learn from that? So how do you deal with people that are not like just like overtly crossing the boundary, but they're just
Mhm.
little by little, tiny little bit, just nudging your boundary like that. How do you deal with that person?
Yeah. So you need to have a good time management. So to if they have hard time like wrapping things up and they open up something important like almost near the end of the session, or then I need to be mindful of how much time is left, so that like, hey, let me write this down and we can open that up next time, because we have only like, I don't know, 10 minutes and this sounds like a big topic, for example. Or um
Well, so maybe instead of overthinking it, maybe just think of it like that. Like, I actually think those are like this is like the best kind of content for people to hear, right? Because if somebody keeps like pushing, like this time we went over by 5 minutes, next time we went over by like 7 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, like let's say it kept going, like, how do you deal with something like that, right? And to that person, they might be like, they might clear set up a clear boundary, but like from now on, this is what we're gonna do, and like, you know what I mean? Instead of
yeah.
doing that, what you might want to do is try this.
um or
But you don't have a black and white personality. That's the thing, right?
yeah.
So I feel like it's the advice that you're trying to give to a person that you don't know what they're like. It's hard for you to give an advice to somebody who's not like you, who has a different personality than you.
So what I can do is give advice to a person that overcorrected something that is,
But did you overcorrect? It doesn't even sound like you really overcorrected.
well, when I no, I'm saying you right now about those small pockets of it. But this is not like boundaries. I'm confused.
I guess all I'm trying to say is this, like, let's reset it a little bit. I'm trying to find out the thing that you really struggled with. Like, because it sounds like you're trying to create an imaginary problem that you hasn't actually happened to you. But you're trying to give advice to this imaginary problem that never happened to you. I'm trying to say, what's an actual real problem that happened to you as a result of your personality, or your something that you did wrong? And when I say wrong, I'm not meaning like you did something wrong, but I'm just saying, you know, because you didn't handle the situation correctly or whatever it is.
So, I mean, in terms of this topic and boundaries, I think so, because I'm not doing the same as I was right now as I was doing when I would have this mail with rules and I would send that to everybody. So I think this is a little bit more strict than it's fine for me,
So you shouldn't
because
have done that, like setting that strict rule.
yeah, but a more flexible rule is something that, so I need some structure. And for example, I made difference between online and live session, so it's not the same boundary. So it's not like everything for everybody is the same. No, I approach to how I can manage time. So So my lesson is that rules, if I have, I feel like I'm rambling and I try to finish my sentence, but I don't know what will come next. So I don't know. It looks like rules are important for me, but they need to be like flexible rules.
How would you deal with it right now if you had a client like that?
Like what? That
Like
is
the kind of client you had before that kept crossing the
sessions.
bound, that kept nudging the boundary.
Um, I mean, I would remind them if they, I don't know, want to go over time or something, or they open up this topic, or so I would need to in advance, like to ask them to write it down and to start this topic in on the next session, or to ask for their needs and to see like what we have time for, or if they have two topics for that day, I will double check like, hey, so I know we are talking about this, but just to be mindful about what you also have. I would need to like ask them more and to remind them more about why we here
And
and what.
is that what you do now?
Yeah, I think I'm doing this more.
Okay,
So
good.
this is kind of that like on the track, like on point on the track more than like, okay, just we can talk about this thing, but just know that we will not have time for this another one. So just to be sure this is what you want.
I mean, I those are actually really great tips. I think that you should like forget the myth true sandwich. I think that these are kind of content that you should actually put out that will help people. Like
I mean, like therapist.
therapists, or even like it could be with friends, right? A friend that keeps uh, overstepping their boundary little by little, right? Right. Like
Yeah.
say somebody's like, you know, not respecting your time or something like that, and here are some things that you can say. Like one, hey, it sounds like before you start, make sure you set them up. Or like another thing you can do is like people say that like when you go into Zoom meetings now, people will say up front, they'll be like, oh, just so you know, I have a hard stop at 3 o'clock today, or something like that,
Hmm.
so they know, they're aware of. Like there are little things like that you can do, right, to set that
Hmm.
boundary. So like give those type of tips. Like those are actually really super helpful, don't you think? Like because it sounds like you learned to do that.
Yeah, but it.
Or is it, here's what I'll say. I hear those tips all the time too, right? And people tell me those tips, and I know that when I go into Wednesday workshop, I should be like, oh, by the way, I have a hard stop at 10. Like, okay, after this, like we can't do anymore. Okay, like, okay, we're gonna have to stop, right? I know I can do all of that too, but my personality won't let me do it. And I actually think that the fact that I don't do that is one of my strengths. The fact that people see that I am always going over and
Hmm.
beyond the beyond my responsibility, or beyond what I'm, beyond my uh what I should be doing, going over and beyond, like extremely, is I think the reason why I think it is the reason why my clients pay me so much. I think it is the reason why people always say, hey son, like I can really tell that you really care. I can tell that you're really authentic. So it's actually kind of part of my brand. So what I had to do was I had to find a different strategy. Like that strategy that you're saying didn't work for me. And so the strategy that I found is Gigi. Like
Hmm.
Do you understand what I mean? And that we do the good cop and bad cop thing, right? And the
Do
reason
you,
why that,
do you have that trait in your personal life?
yeah, it's just me. That's who I am. I'm very not good with boundaries.
So would you, for example, if you're, I don't know, coming late to a meeting, and you bump to a friend and he wants to tell you something, and you would come late to a
Yeah,
meeting because you were listening to him?
yeah. I mean, I'll try to manage, but at the end of the day, people know that I might be late. People expect that from me. So a lot of my clients actually
Hmm.
will give me a false deadline. Let's say the deadline is on the 10th. They'll actually tell me, son, it's actually we need to launch on the 5th,
Hmm.
when the real deadline is the 10th, because they know that about me. Do you understand what I mean? It's it's
Yeah.
it's part of my persona. It's what people expect from me, right? And I've been able to make that work. But the way I've been able to make that work is by being upfront to everyone that this is number one, this is how I am, and this is the reason why we're gonna charge you a shitload of money. And so here's the upside and here's the downside. But and then that's why I also have Gigi, so
Yeah.
that she can manage some, like the whole good cop and bad cop. But here's what
This
I'm trying to say.
this is the okay.
What I'm trying to say is, yeah, I can sit here and I can be like, oh yeah, you have to manage your boundaries, and you have to tell them up front that you have to say, oh, we have 5 minutes left, and I can give all those tips. But the thing is, it wouldn't be authentic to me, because that's
Hmm.
not how I solve this problem. The way I solve this problem is by having a bad cop. And that's the advice that I give. And
Yeah.
some people resonate with it, and some people don't. But the ones that resonate with me are going to be the ones that are going to be like, oh, I'm just like that. And do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. So it looks like, so you cannot have too many clients because you're charging your
It's
personality
one of the
trait.
reasons why we charge so much.
Yeah. So the thing is, if we imagine you charging like a regular prices for your work as another like average prices, probably you, I don't know how would you feel about that, but probably you wouldn't feel satisfied then with
Yeah,
how.
that's actually how it was in the first few years of Night Owl. We were like a factory. Do you understand what I mean? And what happened was I felt like I was just sitting there, just doing manual labor. Okay, here's a website for you. Here's a website for you. Here's a website for you. And I was miserable. Do you understand what I mean?
So I know that if when I work, I mean today, one colleague told me that he scheduled 9 sessions for one day, and for me it was,
You can't
if
do
I
that.
imagine,
You would be miserable if you did that.
I would never do that
Why?
because it would be too exhausting, and I wouldn't. I cannot imagine myself like listening fully on, I don't know,
Like you
six.
wouldn't be able to give the right amount of attention to each one if you
Yeah,
do that.
yeah,
Like physically you can do it,
of course.
but you just wouldn't be at the top of your game.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm fully present, um you really need to listen then to recall the context you're following person through different aspects of their life. And you have, it is like, I don't know, imagine you are, watching 9 series different at the same time in one
Yeah.
day.
Yeah, same thing. Like I can technically work on a lot more websites.
Yeah.
But the thing is they would all be kind of half-ass. But I can do it, right?
Yeah.
I just can't do it at the same level of quality that I'm doing it now, right? So the so now I have a choice to make, right?
Mm,
Do I want to be McDonald's
yeah.
or do I want to be, you know, like a five-star restaurant where we have less customers? So so for you, I mean, I don't know how we got here, but I guess what I'm trying to say is these are I was in the exact same place at one point in my career where I was doing a lot, charging little, and
Mm,
unhappy. And so because I was unhappy, I had to fix it. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
and what happened was the way I fixed it is by keep raising price, raising price, raising price, right?
Yeah. I know that this is the answer. So it needs, so the first step is posting content, and I struggle with that because I'm even right now I had some idea, but as we were talking through now I don't have idea. So I'm again in the beginning place where I don't have like a one carousel to post that I want to post. So if I want to raise my prices, I need to post, I need to make something that I can say, okay, this is, I know who I'm talking to, this is what I think, and I made this, let me post this. So this is the first thing to do, but if I don't have that, I need to live through to um
I don't know if that's true. I think
what.
posting is okay. I think there's multiple things you can do. Okay. So
Okay.
number one is I think you can start raising your rates little by little with your existing clients. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so that's one thing you can do, right? And then you can also ask your clients like, hey, if you know anyone that's looking for a therapist or whatever it is, I'm taking on new clients, right? So whatever you can do without social media posts, whatever you can do to raise your prices and get more clients, there are things you can do there. It's just that you choose not to do them. And then on the social media side, I think it's like this. The more you start to overthink content, the less ideas you're going to get.
Mm.
So I actually think that you should start putting out, like, I think the way you're going to figure out what your audience to needs to, like, even that first post, it's kind of like this, right? The reason why that post is hard is because you don't know your audience and you don't know what they need to hear.
So do you think I should post like this, even though I'm not so sure who am I talking to and what I wanted to say?
Yeah, it's the only way you can find out.
So you think even though we kind of we totally smacked my carousel,
No,
that I
i
should.
i smacked your carousel. Like, I even said that in the beginning, like, if I was working on this carousel, this is what I would do. Like this, like the, this is the problem I see, right? But that's if I was posting it for myself, right?
Mhm.
So you're gonna have to start at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
So
even with yours, I think it was perfectly fine. It's just that I would word it a little differently if I was posting for
okay.
mine.
Yeah. Okay. So it's good enough, but if I want to make it better, this is the advice. So your advice on my carousel is that I need to find better myth. right?
Yeah, and I think even within that carousel, there are some. It's just that there's too many myths. You just need to narrow it down to one, right? That's all.
Okay, let me see.
The I think the great analogy that I can give is like this. This is from Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL guy. He said that if he
Mhm,
was dropped in the middle of nowhere, right? Let's say he was dropped in the middle of a forest. What
mhm.
would and you have no idea which direction to go. You have no compass. You don't know where you are. You're like you have zero idea. You're just completely in the dark, right? He said what he would do is he would try to figure out which way is downhill and uphill, and he'll just start walking downhill, and he'll keep walking, walking, walking until he finds a river. Because once you go down, all the way at the bottom somewhere, there's going to be a creek or river or something like that, some sort of water. And once he sees the water, he's going to follow that water, which way it's going, and and then that water is going to lead him to this, and which is eventually going to. So, and that's how life is. Like life doesn't have a map that has an arrow that says go
Mm.
here. The way you figure it out is you just post that thing that's not good enough, and then from there you get a little, and then you post something another thing that's not good enough, and then you're gonna get a hint, and you do that for a few weeks. You're gonna be like, okay, I think I can narrow it down a little bit like this. I think I'm talking to therapists. Oh no, I think I'm talking to this kind of people, and then you narrow it down, and then you read the comments, you hear the DMs. That's how it
Yeah.
has to start. I didn't know who the hell I was talking to when I first started posting.
Okay. Okay,
And
I'll
I
try to.
guarantee you, if you go back to my first carousels,
Mhm.
they're not even at the level that the carousel that you're making.
No, no way.
Yeah, look at the first carousel I made. It was stupid. It was so stupid. It's like the one about like me and my mom like telling me to stay up. Um, like my mom making me stay up. There was one about like how I think something about sales, like when you do sales. But it was just like it
My finger is working on on finding this one.
but the thing is, I really this is something that I wanted to tell you. Actually, I think you really really underestimate the power of posting, the power of putting something out into the public. Like you can make 100 carousels privately, and you can make 100 carousels publicly, and the your progress, like how much you improve, is going to be drastically different if you do it publicly versus you do it privately.
Hmm. Okay, I heard you. I'll post it. I'll post it. So sometimes I think that like topics that I choose are so difficult to find a lesson, and that so many therapists maybe are coming to this place, they tackle this place that actually it's so hard to say in words what is the subtle truth, that they just give up and say like just say no if you don't feel like it, because
What about if you look at you know the girl that was Sirut, or if you look
Mhm.
at the millennial therapist, right? If you look at their content, like is you can put out content like that, right? The type of stuff that they're saying.
I think that even millennial therapist has these advices, tips, and so on. Only with Sirut, I see that she actually has like her train of thoughts, like she thinks something and you can see what she thinks about something. And I think that's why she talks only about a few topics, like maybe 10 topics she's clear about her opinion on, and this is it. Like cuddling, pop psychology, victimhood
I know,
mentality,
but I
trauma,
feel
and
like you can also do that too, is what I'm saying. I don't think she's trying to figure out, okay, what's the subtle truth here, and what's the like. I don't think she's trying to make a myth truth sandwich. Is what I'm trying to say.
you don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I don't think her her content is that complex. I mean, it's very opinionated, and but it's not. It's like things that all the content that if you read from her, it's something that you understand, right? You get and you feel the same way, right?
Yeah.
And you can say it too.
Okay, you mean like myth and truth, and so yeah. Okay, you have good points, son. Congratulations. You debunked all my excuses for not making carousels.
And I don't even know why you have to make carousels. I don't know why you can just make reels. Like, why can't you just make reels and just say, hey, you know, like, you don't have to completely draw boundaries. You can do this, right? Like
Okay.
that. I think that's where you'll really find clarity when you start doing that.
You mean like if I say, like that I already said, I mean, I see many times that therapists are advising that you should set a boundary, you should say no to things that you don't like. So they're addressing the disagreeable person and they are advising them how to not be taken advantage of by setting boundaries. So instead of like say no and say I don't want to talk about that and be clear about what repercussions are going to happen. So this is the extreme, the myth. So instead of that, then you're ruining your relationships because some people care about you and that's why they ask. They are curious. They have the right to be curious, or they are worried
Yeah,
about you.
start there, and then find another way to say that again. And because remember, you said even Cyril posts the same 10 topics over and over. So you are
Yeah.
gonna whatever you say, you're gonna say it multiple times.
Okay.
I guarantee you. It's not like you're gonna talk about this concept of boundaries versus finding balance and then never talk about boundaries again. Trust me, you're gonna talk about it again. But the next time you talk about it, it's gonna be slightly more refined. And the next time you talk about it, a little bit more refined. Boom, boom, boom. Until it gets to a point where you say something like setting clear boundary doesn't mean give people ultimatums.
Mm-hmm.
And like now
Yeah.
you've said it in one sentence. Well, everything you want to say in one sentence, right?
Okay.
I actually that's how I would do it. Like you hear a lot of therapists say set clear boundaries. Don't let people, step on your boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, uh, if your mom is asking you to, and then you give some ridiculous example, right? If your mom is asking you, um, you know, to come over or to do this, and you just say, "Mom, if you keep telling me to do that, I'm not going to come home anymore."
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you're going to ruin your relationship with your mom. The truth is, setting boundaries doesn't mean give people ultimatums. Like, like find the, and then like maybe the advice is find the balance. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By the way, I should have told you that. I should have said this is level 3 in the beginning. I forgot to say that. I hope I
Okay.
didn't discourage you, Jelena, because I mean I really think it was. I think that carousel was really good.
Okay. Thank you. I was this. You didn't discourage me, but I was discouraged a little bit. But now I'm back. So
Yes,
thank you.
yes. Yeah, no, it is really good because it does make people think, you know.
Yeah, I guess this should be my goal.
Mm.
That it's good if I can address something, because many times it's hard to find that person and to address the myth and to be sure about these things, because then I have an idea for a carousel, and from this I cannot make a carousel, and here I have a carousel. So to make these things closer, it means a lot more work, and then I will lose my carousel, and then I
And
will
also
have
maybe you
this.
also think about this: that one carousel that you made, that one idea, you
Hmm.
can make 10 different carousels out of that same idea.
Yeah.
You know that, right? Because it's a strong enough idea that you can say it in multiple ways. You know what I mean? So maybe if you think of it like that, you won't have this FOMO of like, I need to make this one perfect.
Hmm. The thing is, so my goal should be for people to think. Maybe it's not like such a good advice for a specific person, but if they're just thinking a little bit about this maybe is good enough goal for a content on social media.
Yeah. I mean that I mean I think the post that you the one you have now, if you post that, I'm pretty sure people will be like, "Oh, I never thought of it that way." So even the way you have it, the way it is good enough. It's just that, you know, I'm not being critical of it. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
maybe
yeah, I
that's
know.
what I should have started with. Like I make carousels like at that level all the time, and I'm even critical of it myself towards myself of doing that. So it's not. I don't want you to
Yeah,
feel like, oh, I failed with this carousel. Like you did, you succeeded with that carousel.
yeah. Okay,
Is what
good,
I want you to know.
good. So I will try to, if I can simplify it, I'll do it. If I don't do anything with that, I'll just post it as it is. It is
And
what it
post some
is.
videos too.
Okay. So I this is the first time I actually post on my Instagram stories.
Stories.
Yeah, like 7 day challenge. Because I would usually do that. I mean, not usually, like I would always do that for close friends, which is people from our community. So I was like,
And how does it
that
feel?
nothing
Eh.
spectacular. It's, it's fine. Even the thing is, I even recorded that from the first time. I just stopped to Google like how to say like if your tire is losing air, or how to say mechanics. So I just Googled that before to know, to have like expression in my mind, and I just recorded it and posted it. This is it from first time. Like whatever, this
And
is
also, I think you should maybe start posting on TikTok again because you were
yeah.
doing really good there for a while, and then you stopped.
Okay.
It's. I think it's kind of like, remember in the beginning of the conversation we talked about how you wake up and you start
Mhm.
the day with the gym. Like I think that's kind of how I also feel about content. Once you get into the momentum and you start posting, it actually becomes more fun to post, and it becomes more challenging, and more you'll get better at it, and you want to do it more, right? But once you stop, it actually like it goes downhill from, like, there is a momentum there. So I think it is important for you to ride that momentum, and that's why I'm saying just post it, even if it's not perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Yelena, I'm gonna look forward to your TikTok.
Yeah, I'll post it. I'll post something. I think I'm listening really good content nowadays. So I have many ideas and then I connect things. So I talk a lot in my environment, like, oh, you know about this, about this. So maybe I can just talk
Yeah,
publicly.
please, please do. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Yelena. Looking
Thank you,
forward
Sam.
to seeing your reels and carousel.
Yay.
Cheers. Bye.